Hi, welcome to Adventures of a New Nerd. I'm Aurora, and I've only been getting into comics these last few years, and so I'm a relatively new nerd. And I'm going to be talking about DC and the New 52, which I decided to do because it's kind of supposed to be so that newer people can get into it, because it's restarting the timeline. It's a little bit easier to get a hold of, and there's less of it, so you can, it's easier to, find it and read it in order and, understand what's going on. The New 52 is frustrating because I feel like when you read it, you're like, as a new nerd, I'm like, okay, there is some stuff that happened before this reboot that I need to read about because I don't know what's going on. And then I feel like old nerds are like, I don't know what's real and what's not anymore. Like, is this still in continuity? Is it not? Like, they really give and take, so it's a little bit hard to get through and understand how you're supposed to read it. I'm mostly interested in the Bat family and the Teen Titans. I like teams, and I like sidekicks, and I care about the relationships in between people and how people, what their lives are like, dealing with being in a superpowered world, and just basically the normal lives of these people. That's kind of what I care about the most. So basically I'm talking about New 52 Volume 1, and the order that I was recommended to read it in: Static Shock, Supercharged, Superboy, Volume 1, Incubation. Teen Titans is Our Right to Fight, Batman, the Court of the Owls, Batman and Robin, Born to Kill, Batgirl, The Darkest Reflection, Batwoman, Hydrology, Nightwing, Traps and Trapezes, Batwing, The Lost Kingdom, Red Hood and the Outlaws, Redemption, Catwoman, The Game, and then I was recommended to read Volume 2 of To Drown the World, Batwoman, before I read Volume 1 of Batman Incorporated, the Demon Star, which is why Volume 2 is in the Volume 1s. I am going to talk about Wonder Woman in a different post, and I also read separately, it's not part of the New 52, but it's Batwoman, The Greatest Stories. And I'll be talking about that probably at the end, maybe. I'm going to start with Static Shock. I remember him from the TV show when I was a kid, and in this case he is moved to New York, and a whole lot of other things have happened. They make a little bit of references to the things that happened beforehand, so I feel like I need to read the story before Volume 1 of the New 52, where I think the thing I found most interesting was his sister, who something happened previously, and now they're his sisters, and there's this whole, dislike between them, and them trying to figure out who they are now, and all that stuff, and that was actually the thing I found most interesting. And outside of that, I was, a little bit disappointed with how this... I feel like I was expecting more and didn't get it for this book. I feel like it's worth reading, but not worth buying. I was advised to read before Teen Titans, but I feel like I wish that I had read Superboy after Teen Titans. Even if it would have had spoilers for Superboy, I feel like things would have made a bit more sense. And been more interesting when you read Teen Titans. I love Teen Titans. And, Red Robin... Okay, so basically the team is, Red Robin, who is, blogging about how this organization is, trying to get metahuman teenagers, and we should stand up for metahuman teenagers, even though he's not a metahuman. And then you've got Wonder Girl, and I kind of love her. I want her to have her own title. I don't understand why she doesn't. Basically, she stole the gauntlets that are on her arms that, are battle armor. And then there's Kid Flash, who is, mysterious backstory that we don't know yet. We'll tell you eventually. Mysterious. And Solstice, who, she's really cool. I really like the way she thinks, the way she thinks about things. She's very much everything happens for a reason, and I've been through some shit. But I'm here now, and so, I must be here to do something good. And then there's Skitter. She's if I'm worried about going to sleep because I will cocoon, and then sometimes I'll wake up and I'll be this, instinct-based insect monster So just her trying to figure out, I don't know, like her powers is she's got like an interesting characterization. She's kind of like got a Hulk complex. And then remember his name, but I feel like he's got an interesting power. He's basically from Mexico City, and he's gay, which I really like. That it's, you know, a gay guy of color. A little bit stereotyped with how well he dresses, but I mean, you know, because he, like, somebody commented on how nice his shoes are, and you see that he's like really dressed up for like running away on a train to meet Red Robin. And it was just like in the end of the book an offhand comment of like this girl is talking to him, and he's like, "Oh, you know I'm gay, right?" Which was cool. Red Robin as, you know, oh, and that's Superboy, who I will talk about after this. Red Robin is a bit of a hard ass. It's kind of depicted as like doesn't really have social skills. It's kind of removed from society and doesn't really care or doesn't really understand people's feelings, which totally works in the way that it makes sense if he was homeschooled by Batman, because Batman, I mean, Bruce Wayne's like social character, but like who he is really is Batman, and he doesn't have any, like, Batman doesn't talk a lot. He's very just like cut and dry, like this is what needs to be done. And so I don't know, Tim Drake's kind of, he's in this earlier in the book, and he's at a mall, and he's like, this is what I missed out on, makes me glad I was homeschooled. But everybody else is like, you being like way harsh, you need to like respect the people that have feelings. Anyways. Oh, and Static Shock is also mentioned, and Superboy is occurring like concurrent to like at the same time, which is frustrating because I feel like you need to read it issue by issue, and so it's frustrating when it's in the trades. Like, you don't really need to know, but I feel like sometimes it's like, we're filling in information from another story here, kind of. And then it makes you feel like you have to read the other part so that you get the whole story. Superboy, and, spoiler alert, I watched Young Justice, and that's kind of part of what got me into comics. I, like, just watch all DC TV shows because, you know, I like the characters, I'm interested in the world, but it's hard to know where to start with the comics, and, they have, like, at least, like, an ongoing continuity that you can follow through, and it's, like, one storyline that makes sense. Anyway, so I almost feel like this is a little bit darker than Young Justice, which of course it is because it's comics. And they go a lot more into depth about like what's going on with him. He's with this corporation for a lot longer, and they're trying to like figure out if he has morals and if they can control it, and like all these interesting things. There are two characters that I feel like I need to know their story that's before this, that would make everything that they're doing here more significant, and so that's what I'm really interested in. So Superboy like doesn't really know what's going on, and I don't know, it's a bit weird. I have to say, in Teen Titans, they kind of make this thing between, like, Wonder Girl and Superboy, where it's like, they're both attracted to each other, like, things are different, and I'm not feeling that. Like, I get it if, like, you want that to happen, but, like, you shouldn't just be like, we could have been something, except I'm fighting you and I've never met you before. Anyways, those guys are kind of all in their own universe. Static Shock is actually mentioned in Teen Titans, and even though I get some spoilers from Superboy for reading Teen Titans first, I feel like Superboy's more backstory and Teen Titans things have been like more impactful. But it's not like you miss anything. They explain Superboy's story. And so that's off in its own world, and then in this world we've got is Batman, the Court of Owls, which is I guess my favorite parts is in the beginning when Bruce is talking about how he's gonna set up, well, first of all, it's like facial recognition software so that he knows who everybody is at the party, which is fantastic. And my favorite, okay, this is, you've got Nightwing as Dick Grayson, and Tim Drake the Red Robin, and Damon the new Robin. Damon is Bruce's son, for people who are not reading comics. Part is like almost basically this interaction where Bruce is like, set facial recognition software, and Tim Drake, it's like, You know, tell me he's not using facial rec for the party. And so Damon goes, the party? He's using it to remember who you are. Drake. And I just thought that was the greatest thing ever. I kind of love Damon. Damien. I'm probably also pronouncing all these names wrong. But that's kind of what I really love. And I also love Dick and how he shows up here being like, Bruce, you need to do some things. You know, like you need to talk to me, you need to tell me what's going on. It's crazy. It's cool. And I almost feel like you need to be reading Nightwing, slightly concurrent, but it's really cool. There's this whole, like, Batman has his journey, and it's creepy. I don't know. I love Dick Grayson. Dick Grayson's so sassy. I mean, I love Bruce, too, but he's a good center character, but I don't generally care about the center of the main character. I come for the side characters. So Batman for me is less fun when it's just him on his own. Like, I care about teamwork and all these fun people and how they interact with each other. It's cool to see how Nightwing interacts with Bruce and what Bruce's life is like outside of Batman, and then there's also the whole Batman mystery, and they really tie it into, basically, like, they tie it into Gotham. They, you know, just they make it very much like this is a part of things. It's not just an adventure that has happened, but a thing that has always been there. And they go into Bruce's past about how the Court of the Owls can't exist because when he was a child, he was convinced that there had to be a reason for his parents' murder, so he searched for them and couldn't find them. And there's a great reveal at the end that ties in with Nightwing. And I almost feel like you have to be reading Nightwing, all these things like simultaneously, just to like have it all going on. Anyways, it was interesting. Okay, and next is Batman and Robin, very standalone story. I love the plot line. You get to find a little bit about Batman's past, and kind of like their future, like what's going on. So you get a little bit of backstory, you get characterization, you get awkward relationships. I feel like the villain was really interesting in this. I feel like a lot of these villains are things that it's like, they went that extra mile to blame their problems on other people. Very human in a very pathetic and creepy, terrible way. It's very much like Batman and Robin dynamic duo, but it's a very different kind of dynamic. Bruce is actually the father to Damian, and Damian is a very different kind of Robin. I think Bruce doesn't really understand how to handle him, and Damian has had a very different childhood. He was trained to kill by his mom, and so he has all these killer instincts, and Bruce is trying to, like, not have him lead down the wrong path, and is worried about what he might become, and Damian just so wants his dad to be proud of him and to love him, but he doesn't feel like he can live up to these ideals that his dad has, and he feels like his dad doesn't understand him, and he's just trying so hard to, like, be what this person wants. He's, like, not really able to, like, accept who he is, and there's Bruce in an attempt to try to, like, repair their non-relationship is, he buys Damon a dog, like a dachshund or something like that, or a greyhound, but, Bruce is like, here, I bought you a dog, and Damon's like, why did you get me a dog? I don't want a dog, like, what is this? Why did you get this for me? And Bruce is like, you know, normal people things, right? And I love that, like, Bruce has no idea what to do, and so he's like, rich people, throw money at it, which I know people like that, and so it's just funny. I'm like, this is so real. One thing that, one of the, like, iconic scenes to me is Damian, like, goes off, and Bruce, and Alfred goes through his things to see what's going on, and, you know, Bruce is trying to think, like, I don't really feel comfortable with going through Damian's stuff, but I found these, and Bruce throws all of these papers into the fire, being like, he's been drawing these rage things since he got here, and Alfred says, poor boy, keeping his rage in check for so long. And, I mean, Batman goes, we're getting him back, Alfred, I won't let him down again, but, it really bothers me that he threw it into the fire, because I feel like Damian would kind of feel like it's a little bit of a breach of trust, and that's something that if Damian wants to get rid of them, he should have done it on them. maybe I'm just taking this personally because I'm an artist, and I would flip out if anybody put my book into a fire. But there are these really creepy, disturbing images that Damian has been drawing. I also like this facet of Damian's personality, of him trying so hard to be what he thinks Batman wants him to be, and he's right, you know. He is trying to be, you know, he's trying to live up to these ideals, but that's not who he is. And it's so hard for him to try to do this, and it's just like, that it's spilling out in other ways. And I love that. But in the end, it actually, Damon names the dog Titus, or Titus, or whatever, from Shakespeare or something like that. And then they, like, play catch, which I just thought was cute. It was, like, a nice conclusion of, like, hey, you know what? And where Bruce is like, you know what? I understand that what you're going through. I struggle to not kill these terrible people all the time, too. Like, I get it, you know. So next up is Batgirl with Barbara Gordon, and as Batgirl, I love Barbara Gordon, I love Batgirl. It's nice to see her back on her feet. I am not sure how I feel about curing her, because it took I mean, Batman recovered relatively quickly, and I heard when back was broken, but Barbara stayed paralyzed. And in this, they say it was for 3 years, her time. So for us, that was a long time, and a lot of people who read comics know Oracle. Know Barbara Gordon is Oracle, who is this great computer hacker, and she's disabled, and I really think that that's, like, really cool. And it's somewhat controversial to give her back her legs. I actually really like how they deal with her being back in the game and the trauma. Like, at one point she freezes up because a gun is pointed exactly where she was shot by the Joker. And, you know, I love her interaction with Nightwing, and who shows up in here briefly, and her being like, I need to do this alone, like she's working on a case, and she's like, I don't need your guys' help for this, I need to do this for myself, like, I need to get back in the game. And people are like, you need to slow down, you just got better, like, can you fix yourself? And she's kind of like, well, if I slow down, I'm not gonna, like, I never took it easy before, why would I take it easy now that I'm better? Like, now that I can walk again, like, I need to be going and doing something, you know, and I have, like, what is the point of me healing and surviving if I'm not going to do anything with it? And I think that's cool, but she's like, you know, I realize in my not wanting to be pitied, I pushed away the people that love me. And I feel like that's so, I like the self-reflection, I like the character things, and I just feel like that was really great. I like her relationship with her dad, it's complex, and very real, like they're close, but you know, there are some things you don't know what to say. For example, I love this, where this scene, and she goes, like, you know, she's like talking to Dad, he's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, oh, I just wanted to see you. And she's like, I love the internal voice that Gail Simone writes for her. I also enjoy the art. But anyways, so, you know, she's like, sure, you like having a detective ask you how your day went every night at supper. You know, being like, haha, awkward growing up. And then what I like to say is, well, my handsome therapist says we can't date anymore. He says it's inappropriate. I worked my tail off for my forensic psychology degree, and guess what? It turns out I have no experience for the job I want, and I'm overqualified for everything else. Oh, and I think my artist roommate might be an anarchist. My ribs feel like they're in a vice, and oh, by the way, I was there when that bomb hit that train this morning. You know, what I actually say is, I guess I just miss you, Dad. And I love that because I just feel like it's very real. It gives you a lot of definition of, it's like just a great, like, character moment, I guess. And it explains their relationship well, where she wants to tell him these things, but she doesn't feel like she can, and I feel like it's great. Other fun things that I love is, so these couples getting robbed, and Batgirl saved them, and they're like, the fur is fake, and she's like, what? You know, the fur is fake, we're vegan. And I love that, and then I also love this, don't gentrify Gotham, which ties into Bruce Wayne trying to update the neighborhood, all these bad neighborhoods that crime happens, he wants to, like, help the poor and stuff, and, it's actually really controversial, like, a lot of people are boycotting it. You know, there's a Nightwing tie-in here a little bit, where you see him, and she talks to him, and then there's, her seeing Bruce Wayne on a way to talk about, to the opening of his, like, speech to, like, open a building and talk about that. and it's cool to see that. It's cool to see how their relationship is, and I really like the two villains that she has in this. I feel like they really reflect her internal demons in a way that like parallels what she's working on, what she's not working on. So next is Batwoman with Kate Kane. There's a whole lot of other previous backstory on with her, but they don't make you feel like you need to read it in the comic. It's very much in its own thing. It references a lot of stuff that's happening, but it's in a filling in more information kind of way. Or I assume so. Maybe it's new information. It's a really interesting hero. She doesn't talk a lot. She reminds me a lot of Bruce, actually. Kate Kane is this very like serious, well-trained woman, and she's got a sidekick who used to be Flamebird, but is her cousin. And they talk about her relationship with her father, who Kate's mad at, but he had previously sponsored all of her vigilante-ing and one Batwoman-ing things. It starts with this guy kind of explaining, like, I'm pretty sure that Kate Kane is the Batwoman, and in the comic, in this, she's kind of like, the government is looking for her and trying to figure out who she is, and there's her own internal struggle with her father and with her cousin, who wants to know what's going on, and also has become her sidekick. And then there's also, you know, Kate's personal life with her girlfriend, who is a police officer, like, not liking Batwoman at all, and then Kate Kane, like, hiding from it. There are themes in this, but I will get more into that when I am talking about the next one. The one cool thing is you see a little bit of Batman Incorporated in this, where Batman's approaching her being like, do you want to join Batman Inc.? And she's like, no. So it's... Anyways, alright. Next is Nightwing, which ties into Court of the Owls and Batgirl a little bit. But most of this is like Dick's own story. The circus, which he grew up in, is back in Gotham, and is kind of avoiding it. And all this crazy stuff happens. This is going like on the same time the Court of Owls is happening, and so they have the same ending. And there's like a bit of a backstory where Barbara shows up near the end, and he's like, I thought you wanted to be alone, because I talked about her saying that to Nightwing in Batgirl. And it was a really interesting thing. I like Dick Grayson, and I really like how they take everything you love and crush it, like him coming from the circus, and they're like, the circus was secretly evil. Everything you love is bad. Nightwing is great, though. But I'm kind of like, you schmutz, you like don't know what you're doing. But it's cool to see his backstory, a little bit of like memories, tying things in. It's great. Next is Batwing, which is set in Africa, and this is like New 52 started Batman Incorporated as Batman dealing with these people, and I love the story in this. It's a great mix of like now and the past, like explaining the backstory while having like a current storyline going on, which is really interesting. Batman's talking to him, and I'm giving you these tools, but it's not the suit. It's talking about corrupt cops. All this good stuff. It's worth reading. Just because it's such a great storyline. It deals with a lot of issues that, like emotional issues that this person is going through, issues that his country is going through. I like it. It was good. Next is Batwing, and it's a really good story, and I like the art, of course. This is where you get to see the beginning of Batman Incorporated. This is Batman comes and gives him the suit, and it's kind of like talking to him and doing stuff, and you get to see like kind of what's going on at the present, and you also get to see like you get to have backstory with this character, and there's a lot of issues that are like talked about, like corrupt cops and him wanting to like make his place a better place. They talk about child soldiers. He previously was one. It's a really good compact story on its own. Makes it its own little world, and it works really well as a story, and you don't necessarily need to be knowing what's going on with everything else in order to read it. In Red Hood and the Outlaws, it's Jason Todd and Roy Harper / Arsenal / Red Arrow and Starfire. And I liked some parts of it and was upset about other parts of it. This one was very hit and miss for me. Something I liked about it was there's this scene where next is Red Hood and the Outlaws, which is Jason Todd the Red Hood and Starfire and Arsenal / Red Arrow / Roy Harper. And I really liked some parts of it and was less fond of other parts. I like this is like, you know, you get to find out some of what happened to Jason Todd before he came back. And there's this part where you have to give your like most cherished memories to this person who's holding her. And he's like, I shouldn't look, I'm not supposed to, but I totally am going to see everybody's memories. And he goes into Starfire's memories, which is kind of crazy. And Roy's memories, which is, it's just like, these people are crazy. Like, this is your most cherished memory. And then we get to Jason Todd's memory, and his most cherished memory is when he's sick. You know, and Alfred's like, you need to stay home. And Bruce is like, he knows what he's doing, and then he's like, oh, maybe you're right, you're sick. Stay home. And he's just super upset. Jason Todd, little baby. And Batman joins him on the couch for a movie. And that's his most cherished memory, which shows that he's less fucked up than these two, who think he's the fucked up one. I'm not super fond of Starfire's villain in this. What's going on now? There's a reference to him hearing about what's going on with Batwing with Batman in Africa, which is cool. One thing I was not fond of was the characterization of Starfire and the way they dressed her. Some of her outfits are great, and then some of her outfits are like this. I don't know if you can see that, but it's like no clothing at all. It's like not even a proper bra. Like, at least put her in a bra. And underwear that covers her coochie. What is this, like, armor on her shoulders, but not any other vital part of her body? I don't get it. I don't understand it. It's just like... Also, they make it where it's like, oh, she doesn't... Humans are just, like, passing scents and smells, and she doesn't remember because it's not important. She doesn't remember her, like, relationship with Dick Grayson at all, which makes me miss Teen Titans a lot. And I kind of like how she's all like, you are unimportant, I'm a princess. And I like that. I was less enthused with the, like, I'm just gonna have sex with random people thing. Like, I understand her being, like, empowered woman and all, but at the same time, I was kind of like, I don't know. So, some things about that were great, and I loved, and some things I was just kind of like, are you really doing this? Or like, oh, okay. And then this is Catwoman, and okay, one thing I was really frustrated about was how they like, really overdid her boobs there. Like, it's just, like, distracting how awkward they are. They're just, like, awkwardly big in a way that doesn't make any sense to me. They're like huge. They're like almost as big as her head, and I understand like upping the sex appeal and stuff, but I'm just like, I'm sorry, like, no, just no. That's frustrating. I like that she's not wearing heels at least. I like her boots, and her outfit mostly makes sense. You know, I don't understand like where her pockets are or how they exist, but the rest of her outfit at least makes sense. You know, it deals with her relationships and her thing with Bruce and her thing with Batman. And my favorite part about this kind of was she like runs into her ex who is super abusive to her. And first of all, she beats him, which is great. And then in this, like, great setup where she steals from the mafia, and they're like, she's like, you guys want this painting? and she sets 2 different people to pay her for the same painting and meet in the same room, so that there's a gang shootout, so that her ex-boyfriend dies, and it's just fabulous. Because she's like, I wanted revenge. It also deals with the consequences of her actions and how she's just like, I'm a terrible person, I really fucked up. And Bruce keeps just being like, I really care about you, but I can't keep letting you do this. You're just really gonna mess up. Like, what point becomes, like, too much? The next is the second Batwoman, which, continues on with what's going on, with the missing children, and it adds another dimension to it. And I love it. Again, I love the art in all of these books. And I love Kate's relationship with her girlfriend, and I love her frustration with trying to work with the cops, and her sidekick gets injured, and who is her cousin, and her dad is just there every day talking to her, and you just like get so much depth into his character, and it adds another dimension to his frustration with Kate. And I love how and I love the villain in this is a shapeshifter, and it's like an interesting reveal at the end, which I really like. It's just all interesting. Again, I don't want to give spoilers, but it's definitely worth, if you just want to choose like one thing to read as a standalone, like just choose one character, I would definitely choose the Batwoman comics, because it doesn't really deal as much with what's going on with the rest of the DC world. It's very much like this character, and this is what's going on, and it doesn't make me feel like I'm missing a whole lot, you know, which means to me that it's well written, because it's like it can be referencing all these things without making me feel like I need to go read something to fill all these details in. I love her relationship with her girlfriend and the cop, and her like keeping secrets, and her trying to cover up being a Batwoman who her girlfriend dislikes a lot. You get to reveal about the girlfriend, that it's like the story of the missing kids, and everyone's like, you know, just think about it as your kid that's missing, and she's kind of like, I don't have custody of my kid because I'm a cop, and also because I'm a lesbian. And it's just really great. It's like a nice natural progression of the storyline. You can pick up book 1 and book 2. It's great. And then we're going to talk about basically my favorite of this is volume 2, by the way. It was just supposed to be next on the list that I found. And then there's Batman Incorporated, which I love because I've already pre-explained I love team things, and I love all of the Robins. I'm not exactly sure when this is going on, but, you know, it's got Batwing, it's got Damon, it's got Red Hood, it's got Nightwing, it's got them all. And I love the story. I love the, like, they're in this slaughterhouse, and it's just, like, so, like, cartoonishly gory. I love that. And there's, like, all this mythology, which almost kind of ties into, I feel like the reason why I need to read Batwoman 2 was because some of the stuff that she's fighting ties into this. You get to find out about, you know, you get some, like, Talia Damon backstory, and, you know, more of Damon, whom I love. And you also get to see Matches Malone, Bruce's, I'm not sure if you want it to be, like, his alter ego or his, like, cover person. He's so hilarious as Matches Malone, because it's, like, the anti-Bruce Wayne. He's, like, the opposite of smooth. He's kind of tacky. He doesn't do his own fights. He's broke. I love it. And then you get to see a little bit of Bruce being a good guy. And I love, this is, you know, him with Nightwing, probably standing on a chair or something. I guess he's also slouching. Bruce is, and it's Nightwing, which was great. And you get a little bit of Alfred. You get, you know, Damon being like, I'm gonna keep this cow. I'm now a vegetarian, which he's probably not serious, but I just love this whole family dynamic. It's just very, very fun. There's Damon being benched and him being frustrated, not understanding. And there's a big reveal about kind of like the future that Bruce saw that he wants to prevent. I love Batman Incorporated. It makes reading everything else, like, worth it, you know? It's like, oh, I get to see all these great characters. Like, this is definitely, like, this ties all of these individual storylines together, and I love that. But I would not suggest reading it unless you have read everything else, like, basically. And I guess that's kind of what's, I don't know. I also love the idea of Batman Incorporated. It, like, makes sense. And then, side issue, not New 52, but old DC is Batgirl, The Greatest Stories. And I'm getting this all from the library. And it just ties in all of the things. When you read them all together, you're like, wow, they're really weird with continuity. Because, you know, which is kind of almost an interesting contrast. Like, all of these stories here are such an interesting contrast to how, especially the Dick Grayson, the original Robin, and Batgirl's relationship with him in Batgirl is, you know, in Batgirl they're explained as equals. In this one, can I just say how great it is that she's a librarian, and then she becomes, like, a senator? She's, like, fabulous. She's just, like, the greatest. As a person who knows fashion and clothes, this, like, little, like, explanation of, she's, like, her, like, skirt becomes her cape, and her, like, beanie becomes her mask. I love the idea that they put thought into her transformation sequence, and some of it made sense, like, maybe rolling up the boots, maybe the hat cap thing, but, like, I was just like, they don't know how clothes work. But I also love her 60s outfits. They have a mention here about, like, equal rights, which I really like as a discussion. And it's really interesting. And, you know, this is Dick Grayson, and Barbara Gordon, dislikes Bruce Wayne. He's like, ugh, that playboy. I hope his son is, you know, I like that his son is more like, his adoptive son is, like, more hardworking than him. Like, it's a great idea to bring him along. And then they're both like, okay, bye, and then they, like, turn into, like, you know, and they, like, change into alter egos, and then later it turns out that they, you know, they skip a ton of episodes. I kind of wish that they had included the, like, unmasking episodes in here. Because, like, at one point they, like, know who each other are. And then there's this one, which is some sort of, like, flashback one or something, because it's, like, Bruce Wayne and Catgirl, old Catgirl, you know, with her long hair. And this is Damon as Dick Grayson as a kid, and meeting Batwoman, and she's older than him by a lot, it looks like. And there's this scene, and it's like, go collect evidence or something, and it's like, Batman and Catwoman are gonna have sex on this roof right here. He's like, deadly, he's like, go away. Go away, child. And I think that's so funny. Basically, him and Batwoman, and then I'm kind of tired of, like, Dick being like, but you're a girl! No! Well, although I have to say, but in this it definitely is, like, looks like he's much younger than her. By, like, 6 years, instead of, I don't know, in the same age, and so it's weird. I mean, I don't know, it could be that he's, like, if he's, like, 15 and she's 18, I guess that makes sense, kind of. It's frustrating. But they're, like, at odds, which I guess is, like, kind of why they're at odds, is because it makes a good storyline, and then they become a good team. And my favorite is the end, where she's like, you have money, let's go do photo booth pictures of us. And that was my favorite part, was the end. And then there's this cool one where she investigates the murdering of redheads. I feel like I actually really like her origin story in the beginning, because it actually makes a lot of sense. She, like, has this Batwoman costume because she's a librarian. She's gonna be like, haha, like, Dad, you always think I'm so mousy. I'm gonna come to this, and you're gonna be surprised when it's unmasked. I'm gonna come to this, like, policeman's masquerade ball, and everyone's gonna be surprised when I'm masked. And then she ends up being like, oh no, Bruce Wayne's in trouble. I'm gonna go save him. And And then, like, her costume is ruined, but then she's like, okay, well, I can never go back to my boring life now. Like, nothing else is ever going to be as fun or as thrilling as that. And I thought that was, like, a really great natural progression. And then there's this, like, you can really see the continuity differences when you're reading all of these ones, especially, like, there's, like, the older ones, and then there's, like, the newer ones, and it's, like, they definitely changed this, because in this, she's like, I'm 18, I'm in college, when before, I'm being Batwoman, either Batman, you can help me, or I'm being Batgirl, Batman, you can either help me, or, like, you cannot. And in this, she was already a librarian with her PhD and a black belt in karate before she was ever Batgirl. So it's just, like, you know, DC fucking with the timeline. You know, and her being distant with her dad and all of that fun stuff. I liked it. It was a nice compilation of stories for, like, this is the sum of Batwoman, you don't need to know other things. Like, yeah, we skip stories, but it's not like we purposefully left things out. Anyways, that's my collection of volumes number 1. Next, I will be making a storyline of... Next, I'll be talking about volumes 2. Oof, look at that. All my library books. And talking about Wonder Woman as her own separate thing, because her story is out of this general continuity. Yeah, so... Aurora, talking about Adventures of a New Nerd. DC, I started checking these out of the library because I really like a lot of the characters of DC, and I'm interested in getting into some of the comics, but unlike Marvel, you can't just, like, pick up a first series of an issue and just start stuff. I feel like with DC, you really need to know what's going on. So, yay, the library, I've reached my book limit. I really need to, like, take things out. I'm going to read all the New 52, and then try to be reading mostly the Batman verse in order. And probably not reading all the Batman comics, because as I said before, I don't care about Batman as much as I care about his family, basically. I love the Bat family, and I love the Teen Titans, and all of that. I find that really interesting. It's really weird what they've done with the New 52, where they're rebooting some characters and not rebooting others. They're not, like, rebooting the whole universe. They're, like, just trying to, like, make it so that they can, like, keep Bruce forever. Or, like, keep all of the young Justice, like, the Justice Leaguers forever without aging them. Which I think is really stupid, because either, like, you've accepted that they're just like this forever, and you're like, whatever, you know, like, I just feel like comic people are like, okay, we understand that this is not, like, he's, like, in his prime for, like, forever, you know? Or they could be like, oh, this person is getting older. Like, I really feel like, especially with the Bat family, like, I feel like it's frustrating to have it rebooted, because I feel like there's, I can't say a lot for the other things, but there's so many people that when you try to put it in a short time frame, it doesn't make as much sense, and there's so much evolution, and I feel like Bruce is a human, and it makes sense to show him aging, you know? Show him not healing as fast, showing other people stepped up to the plate, you know? Like, with him starting Batman Incorporated, like, I feel like that is unnecessary, you know? I'm watching Batman Beyond, the TV show. Don't judge me. Don't judge me. You know, you get to see old Bruce being, like, you know, he's kind of like a lonely old man in his mansion, just being, like, surrounded by all of these, like, in the cave, surrounded by all of his, like, old Batman stuff, and everybody's costumes in the background, and it's actually, like, really interesting to see old Bruce, and to see how things have ended up, and to see, like, what he does now that he's not Batman, and kind of, like, I love it. I think that that's really interesting, and so it's frustrating that the New 52 is frustrating. It just makes me sad, because, also, did they, like, kill Stephanie again? The spoiler. I love her. She's the reason I started trying to get into DC. Again. Or, like, trying to read it all so I can Because I picked up Batgirl, like, the Batgirl Rising, where it's Stephanie. And then I tried to read the second one, and I'm like, oh, well, obviously, I can't just read this, because there's, like, a million books in the middle that I need to read. But I think it's, like, Stephanie Page or something. I don't know. Oh, Stephanie Brown. I love her. Where is she? Is she killed again? Because I'm not into that. Oh wait, she was killed. Never mind. I remember reading about that. But I thought if she was killed and brought back to life, I don't know. I hope they, like, bring her back and have her in Batman again. But yeah, okay, I'm done rambling. I will see you guys next for Wonder Woman and Volumes 2 of the New 52. And I will also be coming and talking about older comics. And me trying to read them for DC.